So, Jeff, watch this. I have an amazing trick.
Okay.
I'm going to turn this bottled water into wine.
I'm going to guess you're not.
Here we go.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Nope. Can't do it. But you know who can?
Who?
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. So, hey, he's Chris. I'm Jeff. We're the Bible guys. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So I wanted to make reference to the fact that when I was asked this question, what made Chris happy this week? You made the comment and said, sentimental Chris doesn't do it for me.
Right.
I like angry Chris.
Angry Chris is way more fun.
It's way more fun.
Yep.
Okay, so apparently Desiree has gone back to asking the question, what made Jeff happy this week?
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff happy. Well, this makes me. I like happy Jeff.
Yeah, well, sure. Why not?
Yeah. So
I would like to be portrayed as the happy guy as opposed to the mean guy or the unhappy guy.
well, try it once.
I did, and you said you didn't like it.
No. Try being the happy guy.
I was and am. I'm happy all the time. That's my point. See,
Does
you're
it make
making
you
me
mad?
mad. You're making me mad, Jeff. All right, here we go. So what makes
You know what's so fun is it's so easy to get under your skin. That's what's so much fun about it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. We're playing you like a banjo. Okay. So what made me happy?
Yeah, what made Jeff happy?
So actually, I'm kind of weird this way. I love people. I love crowds. I love events. I love all that stuff. But if you ask me, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
It's usually nothing. It's just we don't get very many times to do just nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, man alive, this has been a really, really hard. The first 6 months of this year was one of the fastest paced 6 months I've ever had in my life and in ministry. And so I just keep finding myself tired a lot in those slowdown moments. Now, in the regular moments when you're doing stuff, man, I'm engaged. I'm having fun. This is a
just
blast.
be that you're old.
That might be it too. Yeah. Kind of the old dog laying on the porch. It used to be the when I was a young dog, get off and chase the cars. Now I'm just like, what's that car doing on my driveway? Right. That's for us, we just had we took a long weekend, and so it's like a 4-day weekend. I didn't have to preach that weekend because we had a good preacher scheduled to speak.
You're welcome.
And yes, and so I had a 4-day weekend, and I'm telling you, we didn't do anything. Nothing. I mean, I grilled a little, but we didn't have any company. We went to breakfast, right? I mean, it was stuff like that. That's what we did. There was no agenda. There was nothing to be done. The only thing we had was we went and watched some fireworks and saw the Detroit Symphony. It was the only scheduled thing we had over 4 days.
That actually is another old person thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the reason why you call it, like, your mom and you say, what'd you do today? Oh, and the only thing she can talk about is going to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
I got
my hair done today.
Yeah, right.
No, I need a nap. Yeah. It's not my mom.
It's so funny.
Yeah. So that was it. This is the first time we were talking about it. This is the first time that we had a a multiple day, not even just 3 day, a multiple day stretch, 2 days where we didn't have anything scheduled. And it was great. Bonnie and I just hung out together. Jenna was around quite a bit. Her boyfriend came by, but we didn't have a scheduled anything.
Yeah,
and
that's
that was the first time. That's what made me happy, was not having a schedule, because there's so much on my schedule. Yesterday I had 5 very important meetings back to back to back to back to back, and I barely had enough time between them to even remember what the next meeting was.
Yeah,
and every
one of them lasted like 4 hours.
Yeah, it's 3.5 hours. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to, but it did. But I had it's just that kind of stuff lately has been just really, really fast paced. So to have nothing was very enjoyable.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah, it made me happy.
I'm glad you're happy.
You know what? And the reason why that made me happy probably is because I'm so much like Jesus. The Bible would talk about how Jesus would spend so.
Did you ever see Dumb and Dumber when Lloyd goes dry heaves? Yeah.
But Jesus would go out, wade into the crowd. The crowd would be just always on him for days and days and days and days. And then he would say, "Okay, let's go up in the mountain to pray, or let's go out in the wilderness and pray. Let's go out on the lake." And the Bible said it was his habit to do that, where he would get away for a little while. And I think,
but you didn't pray though. You got away and grilled.
Yeah, we grilled and listened to music.
Okay. So you're not like Jesus at all, is what I'm hearing you. What I'm hearing you
You
admit.
can't stand it when I'm just a little bit like Jesus.
That's so good. Well, speaking of being like Jesus,
Yes.
today is an incredibly unusual thing because Jesus' ministry had not yet started. He's about to tell that to his mom, but there's an incident, and this is like such a cool story.
Yeah. So John is the only one who tells it. Remember how we've been kind of doing this paralleling all of the Gospels, and sometimes it's in one or two or three or all four. This one, John's the only one who tells this story, but it's a really cool one. In John chapter 2, verse 1.
And it's important to know that we're going in chronological order.
Yeah, these are all, as best as we know,
Yes.
this is chronological order.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So he's just chosen his first couple of disciples, and now the Bible says the next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, that's not our problem," Jesus replied. "My time's not yet come." But his mother told the disciples, "Do whatever he tells you." Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And when the jars had been filled, he said, "Now dip some out and take it to the master's ceremonies." So the servants followed his instructions. And when the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. "A host always serves the best wine first," he said, "and then when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you've kept the best until now." This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So, so I want to read this.
This whole miracle is funny to me.
It's really funny. So I want to read this note in the Life Application Study Bible.
Oh, good.
It says, weddings in Jesus' day were week-long festivals.
Wow.
Banquets would be prepared with many guests, and a week would be spent celebrating the new life of a married couple. Often the whole town would be invited, and everyone would come, and it was considered an insult to refuse a wedding invitation. To accommodate many people, careful planning was needed. To run out of wine was more than embarrassing. It broke the strong, unwritten laws of hospitality. Jesus was about to respond to a heartfelt need. So what's interesting is that it seems so trivial to us to say, like, oh no, there's a family who ran out of some refreshments for a party, right? But it was way more than that. Keep in mind that, like, think about weddings today. Weddings today, only like probably a third of them take place in any religious context. Probably 2/3 of them are are married in the justice of the peace and, by ship captains or to be honest with you, probably the majority are people getting ordained online, which isn't really ordination. And people are legally allowed by the state to have these ceremonies in the woods somewhere.
Right.
But what I'm saying is this. In the first century, weddings were radically, radically different, especially among the Jewish community.
Yeah.
We're talking about the vows and the customs. And think about it this way. When Mary was pregnant, engaged to Joseph, the laws in that day in the Jewish custom were he had the right to put her to death. That's how seriously they took, God in the equation of the ceremony and union.
Yeah.
So think about that. Think about if you lived in the Jewish community, everything was that serious, that big,
right?
Which means God was a part of it. And then you were there, celebrating this, which means that this was, yes, a week-long celebration. And of course, you're happy for the bride and the groom, but you're also, it is a celebration of what God has done just as much as anything else. So here's Jesus and Mary. They're at this occasion. And so to not have wine would have probably ruined this family's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jesus has
Everybody would
saved.
be thinking they're so poor.
Right.
Of course they couldn't deliver on a great party.
Yeah. And it could have destroyed their business in the town.
Yeah, this party's lame.
And their reputation.
Yeah.
So I think that Jesus was doing a lot more than providing refreshments at a party.
Oh, absolutely.
He was saving the name of a family. He was adding to the celebration of a godly union that was seen, as something that God has done and celebrated by family and friends and community. It was sort of a big deal that had a lot of substance.
Yeah.
As opposed to, our
And
parties.
and I think he was also highlighting the fact that human events are important,
Yeah.
right?
Well, there's definitely that.
Right.
Sure.
This social event is important, and so I think it's special. Of course, Mark Lowry, he's the one who made it famous that when he said that he thinks that the coolest thing about this is that Jesus' first miracle was just to keep the party going. Right?
Did he say that?
Yeah,
That's funny.
which is such a funny, but it is. It's one of those weird things that
You know my favorite Mark Lowry line.
what's that?
One of my favorites. He's a comedian, by the way, Christian comedian.
Right.
He was always a single adult.
Yeah.
Mark Lowry. So I did singles ministry for a while, and he'd say, "Every time you pray to Jesus, don't forget it. You're praying to a single adult."
Yeah, that's right.
I thought that was funny.
That's right. Of course, it had nothing to do with him turning water into wine. So to pivot back, Mark Lowry said, I'm sorry. I don't know why. I'm feeling sassy today.
Yeah, I think you are.
I
Jeff.
feel really sad. I don't know why. I didn't wake up feeling sassy. Maybe it's just. Anyways, this miracle really was the purpose of the miracle was to keep the party going. Functionally, that's functionally what happened. And I love the note here in the Life Application Bible for verse 10. Right? It says, "People look everywhere but to God for excitement and meaning. For some reason, they expect God to be dull and lifeless. Just as the wine Jesus made was the best, so life in him is better than a life on our own. Why wait until everything else runs out before trying God? Why save the best until last?" Isn't that a great?
That's great.
That is the application of this passage. One of the big ones, I think. But I love the fact that Mary comes in. So there's no Joseph at this point. It apparently, historically, traditionally, we believe Joseph had died. Normally, remember, men would be substantially older than women when they would get married, and so that's not a surprise. That's why there were so many widows. And the reason why the men would be older was because it was expected of a man to have a career, to have resources, to be able to pay a dowry to the family, which would be like the life insurance policy, and to have a home. And so usually a guy would be 10, 15 years older than a woman. So he dies.
And historians believe that he is gone at this point because, number one, there's no mention of him.
Yeah.
And number two, on the cross, Jesus passed on his Jewish responsibilities as the oldest brother by saying, like, to John, "Behold your mother, please take care of her," was the implication there. So it's really believed because he wasn't mentioned. Otherwise, he would be mentioned.
Yeah. Well, verse 12 at the end of what we read said, "After the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples."
Right.
Doesn't mention his dad.
Right, it doesn't mention which is not just not mentioning, but it's actually an omission.
Right. It's a specific omission. Joseph's not here.
Right.
But in this, then it would not have been uncommon for Mary to look to her older son now as the provider. So, hey, Jesus, I don't know if you heard, there's a problem. Oh, this young couple's parents are so embarrassed. They ran out of wine. Fix it. I don't know that I think she was asking him to do a miracle. I think she was.
I don't know.
I think she was telling him to fix it. Well, because no other miracles are mentioned at this point, she doesn't say go do a miracle. I believe she believed he could do miracles. I don't know that she was commanding him to do it. The notes in the Life Application Study Bible kind of reference that too. But anyways, the point is, he goes.
But I don't think it could be fixed without a miracle.
Unless it was the fact that Jesus was also a business owner up to that point. He was a stonemason or a guy. Maybe he had the resources. She might have been saying, "Go do it and take care of it." So then, but anyways, Jesus' response would get me punched right in the mouth by my mom when he goes, "Woman, it's not my time."
Yeah. Well, remember, woman was an affectionate term, right? Yeah. Well,
not in my house.
Well, he actually said, "Dear woman, that's not our problem."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
See, the reason why I think that she thought it was going to be a miracle is because she just says they have no more wine, and she doesn't say anything else. It's almost like there's a look there. Hey, they have no more wine.
Yeah.
Right. And then he's like, and then he implies my time has not come, which means like my miracle, right? My revealing that I'm the Messiah or I'm the Son of God on earth.
Right.
Which means I believe there's an implication there, but you're right. There's nothing described, which means she totally could have thought, from a practical sense, step up and do something about it.
I'm going to agree with you because had he left it, "Dear woman, that's not our problem," meaning I'm not going to go buy more wine.
Right.
But he doesn't leave it there, does he? He adds on the my time's not yet come. So she's hinting, "Hey, Jesus."
Right.
Which then, hey, dude, that brings up a whole other thing. How did she know he could do miracles?
Yeah. Well,
Had he done it before?
She's done it all along.
Yeah, but had he done it before?
No.
How do you know?
Well, because he's the Son of God.
Well, then why would she expect him to do one now at a wedding?
Well, I think this is after the baptism. So I think I think that, when you're there at a baptism and the Holy Spirit descends like a dove, I think that,
Well, what I'm wondering is he out back and he's grilling for family, and then all of a sudden, Elizabeth and Zachariah show up unannounced, and she's like, what are we going to do, Elizabeth and Zachariah here? Yeah. And he goes, poof, and now there's 8 burgers on the grill instead of 6.
Yeah.
Had she seen him do something like that before? I don't know.
Well, I mean, actually, we don't know.
I don't know.
Because
it is weird that
it could have been.
If she's expecting him to do a miracle, it's almost like she knew he could do miracles.
Well, okay, think about this. Since we're having fun with this, is it possible that Jesus could have done private miracles in the home, but just not publicly?
That's what I'm saying.
Right. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's possible they could have done that.
Yeah. So his brother Jude falls, breaks his arm in the middle of a baseball game, and he's like, "Oh crap, we're gonna have to end this baseball game." And Jesus comes over, "No, let me just fix it. Go back out and play shortstop."
Right. Shh! Don't tell anybody.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
Right.
So you wonder if that happened. Something, because I don't disagree with you now, because if he had just left it with "it's not our problem," you could say she's saying to Jesus, "Go buy more wine." Right. But he's nope, it's none of our business.
I also love
but then he goes, "It's not my time."
Not only is it unspoken, like they have no more wine, nothing else is spoken, and then he responds that way, and then it doesn't say that Jesus agrees. It says that the mother, just by looks,
just do what he says,
goes to the servants. Like I know he's going to do it, right?
Yeah, I told him to do
because it's a mother relationship with a son. So she goes immediately, says, "Do whatever he tells you." I wonder if there was like Jesus went, right? I wonder if there was that, right?
Yeah. Well, he just called her woman. He doesn't have much else he can say without sinning now.
Yeah. Well, but that was an affectionate term. You're making fun, I know. But no, that was actually the most affectionate term that he could use. Yeah. And then, of course, he says "dear woman" in this translation. Yeah. And by the way, let's talk about this. Jesus didn't turn the water into wine before they dipped the water out.
Right.
And gave it to the ceremony, right? You know what it reminds me of? Remember when they crossed the Jordan River and they were holding the Ark of the Covenant and the Jordan River was raging, right?
Yeah.
And then what did Joshua say? He said, start to walk and
as they step,
put your feet in the raging river.
Right.
In other words, like Joshua didn't stop the raging river of the Jordan first and said, "Oh, now that it's safe,
no,
go ahead and walk across." Even though they were holding a relic where if they touched it, they died. Right. He says, "No, go ahead and step into a raging river." And the people have to take a step of faith into a raging river. And as soon as they did so, the waters parted in the Old Testament, if you know that story. And so Jesus has a way of having us do things that aren't as easy. They require faith.
Right.
He says, fill it with water.
Yeah.
Remember Elijah? He says, I'm not just going to call fire down from heaven. He says, I want you to go ahead and douse it with water 7 times.
Yeah.
I think that God has a way of doing things in such a way to where it requires faith. And it's amazing. It's actually a lesson that's sort of hidden in here.
Yeah.
They fill up the jars. Now he says, now dip the water out and give it to the master of ceremonies. So they're probably thinking to themselves, no, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But yet Mary says, do whatever he tells you.
Right.
So they're dipping. They're like, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. But they still do it.
Yeah.
And then it says, then the master of ceremonies takes it. And then immediately that's when it turned.
When the master of the ceremonies tasted the water.
Right.
That was now wine.
That was now wine.
Right. It was water, wine.
Right. Which means he saved it until the last possible second. And so it required faith on every level.
So sometimes, those of us that are big planners or those that want to have all of our ducks in a row, it can be frustrating when we have to wait for God to answer a prayer. Mm-hmm. But God isn't just looking to answer the prayer. God's looking to demonstrate his power. And this was his first time. It says, literally, this miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him, right? So God does miracles today. I've had people ask recently, I think somebody on the Bible Guys, one of the questions got sent in was, why don't miracles happen today? Mm-hmm. They do. Mm-hmm. They do. Miracles happen all the time. We need to be living a life that needs miracles, for one, because it's about God's glory. It's not just about our comfort and satisfaction, right?
Right.
And in this situation, it wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't just about the bridegroom. It wasn't just about the family's embarrassment. All those things were why Mary responded, and she went to Jesus. But Jesus decided, okay, right now is my time. I'm going to announce my glory. And then his disciples believed. So if you want to see miracles in your life, live a life that requires that the only answer is the glory of God, and that other people will believe because of what he does in that moment.
Yeah,
right. So you need to be around lost people a lot, and that's when I see the most miracles. When we're part of the Timothy Initiative, great church planting movement around the world, we hear stories of miracles all the time on a daily basis in places where there is no other way for the gospel to go forward, where the power of God is demonstrated for the glory of God, and then people come to faith because of this thing. And it's because there is no beachhead. There's no foothold of the gospel there. You and I have a church on every corner. And in that instance, then we've got scripture right in front of us. We have all these miracles in front of us, but what we want is like something that feels magical in the moment. But those miraculous moments happen in the context of God's glory and people responding by faith to Christ.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
It's pretty cool. I love this whole story is a delight. One last thing in passing, and that is Cana was even more obscure than Nazareth. So this isn't like he went into Tiberias. He didn't go to Caesarea Maritime, these big cities where the Romans were these are little backwater, nothing little towns. And I delight in the fact that God loves to do great things in normal, everyday places.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
well, that's a great place to end, and hopefully we will see you next time on The Bible Guys.